Then Maitreya goes on to say, ignorant sentient beings like us are unaware of their Buddha nature because of the dualistic aspect of our minds. There's always a me here and something outside. So we're always exaggerating this gap, the me, and my problems. And not only that, but this division between subject and object. It's always there. When a person becomes Buddha, the dualistic aspect of mind is totally purified. Mind is beyond dualism. The fully awakened person becomes the embodiment of Buddha nature, transcending all limitations. Transcending all limitations. That's a big statement. Right now we can't even see what's the other side of that wall. That's a limitation, isn't it? If there's some robber waiting there to rob us all when we go out of Tushita. It would be nice to know what's hanging out outside. Or whether the dog Danny is waiting there to steal someone's shoe or bite at your ankle. It would be useful to know. But we don't even know that. When we have no idea how much the person next to you really suffers. Because you don't know that person. You don't know their mind, you don't know their past, you don't know their future at all. Which a Buddha knows. So Buddha can help people. A Buddha sees these things because they've gone beyond the I that creates a big limitation. They've become oneness, in a sense, with things. They can see. Sarvagyani. We speak of Sarvagyani, Samyak Sambuddha. Fully awakened, fully all-seeing, omniscient, fully awakened being. Doesn't mean omnipotent. Buddha can't do everything. If he could, he'd have enlightened us all by now. But he's all-seeing. He sees everything. So we can also be like that. Right now we can't because we are caught up in me and mine. I, me, mine. That's the biggest limitation. A bodhisattva's activity is limited compared to a Buddha's activity. And an ordinary sentient being like us, our activity is extremely limited right now. So we have the Buddha nature, we have the seed to become a Buddha, but it's like so much junk and garbage piled on top of it, it's going to take a while to uncover it, to clean it up. Actually, Buddha nature doesn't need cleaning. It's just the garbage needs to be taken out of the way. The sky doesn't need cleaning. The clouds just need to move. You don't need to clean the sky in that sense. Sky is sky, space is space. It's just the pollution and the clouds have to move out of the way. What are the qualities and characteristics of Buddha nature? There are many things here. It's too complicated. We have to read and get commentaries on a big on the text. But the basic qualities is like spontaneous manifestation. It's like the shining of the sun. It carries with it the real power to aid individual development. Sunlight does so many things. So, Buddha nature is compared to sunlight. It just spontaneously shines. But we have to respond to the sunlight. We have to go out into the sun or open the doors and windows so the good energy can come in. If we remain trapped in our cellars and attics, we can't blame the sun for not shining on us. We have to open up to the sun. But Buddha nature is like that sun. Then let's talk about this very important topic, the obscurations. And then hopefully we have some discussion also. It's getting late. He speaks of temporary obscurations. As I said, these are not permanent things. If they were permanent, then there's no point talking about this. It means we're permanently self-sabotaging people. But we're not. These problems are temporary. There's no such thing as a permanent obscuration. So, he said he defined 9 major ones, Lord Maitreya, in his teachings to our Sangha in Tushita Heaven. Attachment, anger, ignorance, and then other 6 types of obstacles, he said, that concern bodhisattvas who are at a very high level, but they still have certain kind of subtle obstacles. The first obstacle, and the major one that affects all of us, is a main way in which, the main style, if you like, or medium, with which we destroy ourselves and sabotage ourselves, is attachment. Attachment's a very powerful obscuration, strongly reinforces our dualistic thinking. Attachment is defined simply as a mistaken mind that exaggerates. It exaggerates the likable qualities or the attractive qualities of something, thinking it's going to bring me happiness, wants to get it, wants to grasp at it, wants to possess it. So you think, oh, this thing or that thing or this, or whether it's a packet of Lay's chips or this person or that, wow, this is so great, I must have it. It's going to make me happy. That's attachment. We're attached to ourselves, we're attached to our bodies, we're attached to other people's bodies, we're attached to ideas, we're attached to people and politics and ideas, we're attached to any number of things. We're even attached to our own suffering sometimes. We're so caught up in our own problems. It's like a bird in a cage for so long. You open the cage, still the bird doesn't want to fly out, too scared of flying out. It's attached to its limitation. And of course, literally, sometimes the wings have become unable to operate. So you open the gate even, the door of the cage, the bird doesn't fly out. Very sad. We're like that. We get opportunities to fly, but we don't. So, freedom from attachment must be developed. Lord Maitreya, he says, one means for overcoming this, according to the text, is a very clear, accurate understanding of the relative truth of everything. What's the relative truth of everything? This is a very important Buddhist teaching. We see things, often things that are impure as pure. We see things that are impermanent as permanent. We see things that actually are empty or dependently arising as somehow permanent, independent, solid, existing from their own side. We make all these mistakes because of our distorted perception. We don't see relative reality clearly at all. Often we see people who are very helpful actually. Often, have you had that experience? You see someone who becomes very helpful or good to you in your life. Initially you see them as an enemy. You don't like them. We grasp at things in the wrong way. Someone who turns out to be a great friend or really helpful to you, you remember, oh well, when I first met you I didn't like you at all. I grasped at this or that. Or someone you liked a lot initially, they turn out to be a deceitful friend or someone who harms you. We don't see things clearly at all. And I'm not talking here about the deepest nature of things. We're not seeing the emptiness. We're also not seeing all beings as kind. Of course, all these things are there. We're just not seeing relative reality clearly. We keep on making a mistake based on the bias in the mind, the desire that was spoken of in the Pali tradition text. There's always that desire. And when our desire is thwarted, it brings anger. But it's the desire, the attachment, which is the basic problem. Wherever we go in the world, we always find ruins of temples, palaces, houses, other structures that were once new and in daily use, perhaps for centuries. People once worked hard to build these places and spent a lot of money on them. But now the buildings are no more than interesting historical monuments, or maybe not even that. So when we develop accurate understanding, we might still be involved in samsaric activities such as building houses, careers, or relationships, but we won't be attached to them unreasonably and neurotically if we understand the truth of impermanence. Of course we should still have, get married, have children, whatever people do. But you also know the truth about these things. No permanent relationship there, no permanent this. Children leave their homes. I have certain friends now because I'm at an age where if I'd had children they would be 30, 35 by now, amazing thought. And now my friends, their children are leaving or have left the home. The home is like empty. What to do with your life when your children have left? When you invested all your money, your worry, your anxiety, your everything on your children, ab to chale gaye ghar se, so then, father, mother have to adjust to a new reality. Often it's quite difficult, So all these things are there. Things change. If we don't have clear understanding, we'll become jealous if somebody builds a house that's bigger than ours. That may seem ridiculous, but it happens. One temple congregation will try to stop the other temple from developing, saying, my Buddha is better than your Buddha. All these things can happen because of attachment, combined with other negative factors. It's true. Then Lord Buddha taught about the second obstacle, is anger and aggression. He said anger is powerful, although it's not as constant as attachment. It comes and goes. Attachment's continuous, especially in the human realm, which is actually described in the text as the desire realm. We are living in the desire realm, according to Buddhism. There's a form realm, formless realm, but we're in the desire realm, the grossest realm, where desire rules, the wanting mind, the grasping mind, the attachment mind. Yeah. So anger normally develops out of some disturbance which is obstructing the fulfillment of our desires. not getting what we want, we get angry. Very simple. We attach to something, something interferes with it, not having it, so we get angry. Sometimes we even become aggressive in our efforts to get what we want. So one of the main methods for overcoming anger is to develop understanding of other people's sufferings, that other people have problems, other people have mental defilements, other people are torturing themselves. That's a way to feel compassion for others. Simple, powerful way. You realize, I don't need to compete with this person, I don't need to get angry at this person, because this person is suffering. What I suffer is actually probably suffering more than I'm suffering. If they're really making me angry, it could be because they're behaving in a very bad way, because they are suffering so much from their own garbage, their own sickness, their own insanity. Yeah, we quoted Samdong Rinpoche said, we're insane because they don't know how to distinguish. They don't even know how to talk to me properly. Yeah, people who are abusing me, they don't know how to discriminate between wholesome speech and unwholesome speech. It's a sign of insanity. It's a sign of sickness. So, does the doctor feel angry at the patient or compassion? Try and be a doctor who feels some kindness towards the person who is behaving so badly. So like that, we can even begin to overcome anger with a proper understanding of other people's suffering, which is why Lord Buddha kindly taught suffering first. His first teaching is on suffering, right? Dukkha. Then the dukkha samudaya, where it comes from. Then dukkha nirodha, ending of suffering. Then marg, the way to happiness, the way to liberation. He first taught suffering. Several places he says, that what I've taught is basically, everything I taught is suffering and how to end suffering. Wherever you take a drop of water out of the ocean, he said, you will find salt taste. In my teachings, you'll find suffering and the way out of suffering. Very important. These basic teachings are critical. So if we think about the other person's suffering and not just my problem with that person or what I'm having to go through because of this idiot, if we can go beyond that to what the other person is going through, which is true empathy, sympathy, that leads to compassion. Then ignorance is one of the roots of obscuration, like desire, anger and aggression. Ignorance is the result of not seeing things deeply, as they actually are, but merely seeing the surface. How wise that simple statement is. We see something on the surface, we immediately don't like that person, or we like that person. Something very superficial, skin deep. Or the person had said something not nice to us, immediately we develop dislike. We don't understand that person, how come, even on the relative level. And yet immediately we made a judgment and decided we don't want to have anything to do with them, or we don't like them, or I'm not going to talk to them. Jo bhi hai. We make these superficial distinctions. Most of the time we don't even see the surface accurately. In some of the great Vajrayana tantric teachings, instructions, great masters have written that most human beings totally misunderstand each other. They function with 100% misunderstanding. Not 99%, 100% misunderstanding. Pretty bad news. That one is bad news. Good news bhi hai, bura khabar bhi hai. Even good practitioners who are very learned and highly disciplined can be affected by external circumstances from which attachment and anger then develop. May not be obvious, but it is there at an unconscious level, ready to come up as soon as an appropriate stimuli comes. So until we are at a very high level of development, called the first level bodhisattva, which means already a very sublime being who cares for others, is working for others, until they have directly realized ultimate truth in meditation for the first time, they will still be prone to these problems. When you can then see reality directly in meditation as a bodhisattva, then of course you are a very special kind of being, and then other much more subtle problems have to be gotten rid of, but you've gotten rid of this basic sort of level of ignorance. Fourth obscuration, karma. Karma is a result of the combination of attachment, aggression, ignorance. Karma, which is a Sanskrit word, is in such common usage that it even appears in English dictionaries. Even so, not many people know precisely what it actually means. If their businesses are falling apart or breaking apart, their marriages breaking apart, people might ask, is it my bad karma? According to the teaching of the Buddha, karma means causes and conditions. Of course, there are causes and conditions that create failures in business or marriage and other difficulties. So people assume it's karma. The unfortunate thing about this is that an idea becomes fixed in the mind that if it's karma, we are helpless. So that's a problem. It is a fate that cannot be changed. That idea is wrong, because it's absolutely untrue. Bad karma can be improved, good and become good karma. Good karma can also be destroyed and become bad karma. So karma doesn't exist as some entity in its own right. Karma is a word that describes relative causes and conditions that create our lives, and we can affect them deeply. It's not some external force over which we have no control. Karma is the intention, actually, in our own minds, how we do things. And then, of course, with bad intention, we kill and steal and so forth and abuse people. But if we change the intention and the quality of our mind, then our actions become virtuous and they lead to happiness. The fifth obscuration, according to Lord Maitreya, which is a Tibetan word, palcha, means unconscious dualistic states of mind. So these are more subtle, but important. They are states that are dormant in the mind, but they can then spring up, become manifest under certain circumstances. It's like a sleeping monster, if it is a negative state, or a sleeping angel, if it's a positive one. Because we do have also unconscious positive states, seeds. It's almost like an instinct. It's like an unconscious habit we carry from us, from lifetime to lifetime. So then there are many other subtle obstacles. We don't need to look at that now, because we are not yet first level bodhisattvas, probably, most of us. But there are other more subtle obscurations which we'll worry about when we become yogis, real yogis. So what stops us also seeing? This is very important, this section. The disadvantage of not knowing our Buddha nature. What are the disadvantages? This is crucial. Sorry, I hope you can all stay a little bit beyond 1 o'clock. Those who don't and have to leave, just remember we have this talk on Monday, that I mentioned, 6:30. Mindfulness for busy professionals. The first disadvantage of not knowing about our Buddha nature, the jewel in the garbage heap, the king or queen in the womb, the treasure under the Jogi Jompri, the main disadvantage is we will have self-inferiority. We are likely to view our mistakes and faults as permanent, as part of our essential nature, which is one of the biggest mistakes we can make. We can start feeling bad about ourselves so easily because we have this problem or that problem, this fault or that weakness. We begin to identify with it and we begin to think, I'm not a good enough person. I can't manage, I can't cope. Yeah, Lord Buddha became a Buddha. Some people will, but I won't. I can't even, tie my shoelaces. We can become depressed by not knowing about Buddha nature. The inferiority can be so strong. So, any wisdom or realization we are fortunate to develop, we may see as a form of self-delusion. So if we are unaware of Buddha nature, we are easily convinced of our own worthlessness and mistrust any good qualities we have. So this, of course, is a completely wrong view. So, self-inferiority, have to be aware of that. Second disadvantage of not knowing about Buddha nature is ego. Self-inferiority is one thing, but ego is the other pole. When we develop good qualities as a result of our positive effort, we may think we created them from nothing. And in this way we inflate our ego, that I'm so great, that I developed this or that. We don't realize that we have Buddha nature the same as every other sentient being, and that a good quality is a little bit of Buddha nature manifesting in us, but that we are ultimately not superior to anybody else. Even a dog has Buddha nature, but as a dog, difficult to manifest it. But dogs have Buddha nature, potentially. Insects have Buddha nature. But with their nervous system and consciousness, they can't develop it as an insect or dog. Although, as we see, some dogs are amazing and can be amazingly kind and helpful, even without having the human body. And of course, dogs and insects don't massacre each other like we do. If we don't see that others have the same potential as we do, we easily develop false pride in our own little small accomplishments. We think, somehow I'm better. I'm better than this other person. But that other person's Buddha nature is no different from one's own. The third and fourth disadvantages are what Rinpoche calls assert and deny. So fanaticism is an example of assert and deny. Lack of awareness of this nature, Buddha nature, leads to limited, narrow-minded perspectives that cause people to assert their limited views as being the only ones. And then we deny the truth of other people's views. For example, if we look at Buddhist images and rituals, we might do so without ever seeing their essence, their underlying purpose, and we get caught up in the outer forms. Without understanding, we deny the essence and we assert the external image. Buddha himself said in the Vajrachedika Sutra, the Vajrakata, sometimes called the Diamond Cutter Sutra, he says, those who see me as form, those who see me as sound, they don't understand me. Now that they don't understand what is Buddha. So of course we have beautiful statues and so forth, very important in our traditions, Mahayana tradition and so forth. Very important to have statues. But that's not the real Buddha, is it? How could a statue, a piece of metal, be a Buddha? Could it be? Buddha is consciousness, is a function of consciousness, of mind. These help us by being beautiful and inspiring, but they are not Buddha. You could say our Buddha's blessings may come through a statue, that's okay. But as Buddha says himself, I am not a statue, I am not form, I am not sound. Those who see me as such do not understand me, he says in one of the deepest wisdom sutras, which you must read, it's not too long. We have copies here. Vajrachedika, Vajrakata. Marvelous, marvelous sutra, in which Subhuti, listening to it, breaks down into tears due to the beauty of the sutra, of the words of the Buddha. So, these are very important teachings. So we have to understand attachment to just outside image is also a fault of not really understanding Buddha nature properly. Because then we fight, don't we? About my image, my God, my version. Or some people say you shouldn't have an image at all. They get angry that you have an image. They want to blow it out of the rock, as the Taliban did with the Bamiyan statues. So as His Holiness said, it's unfortunate, but the understanding is that it's very sad culturally and also in other ways, but that's not, Buddha is inside. Buddha is not a statue, however important statues may be. And our teacher takes statues very importantly. He's making us build big Buddha statues in Bodh Gaya and in Kushinagar. But, the reason our teacher Lama Zopa Rinpoche says we're making a Buddha statue in Bodh Gaya and Kushinagar of Lord Maitreya is so that people develop loving kindness in their minds. Because Buddha, Maitreya, represents loving kindness, as well as being a completely enlightened Buddha. But he represents loving kindness. That's why we're building these statues, he says, so people develop these marvelous qualities which lead to peace and happiness in the world and in their own minds. So it's very true, what's being said. Self-attachment is the fifth disadvantage if we don't know about Buddha nature. There's a tendency to become attached to good fortune or any qualities one may develop, and a reluctance to share these things with anyone. So this means that whatever positive things develop in our lives won't be of benefit to others, because we become possessive and clinging. We'll become stuck in whatever we've gained, and we will eventually actually decline instead of improve. This is the kind of conjusi, it's a miserliness, self-attachment. Then, the 5 advantages of knowing Buddha nature, wonderful advantages of knowing about Buddha nature and studying it. The first, something we need a lot of in our life, joy. Joy. Joy is not temporary happiness. Joy is not just pleasure at having had your samosa, or if a Bengali eating their fish or rasgulla. It's joy. Of course, Bengalis may find great joy in rasgullas and fish, but this is joy. This is anand. This is mahasukha. No matter how miserable we are, no matter how much suffering we undergo, no matter what conditions we find ourselves in, we always have joy because we know our ultimate essence is perfect. Not just good, perfect. Perfect. Because we know we are developing towards final realization of Buddha nature, we feel absolutely secure and happy. In some of the tantric instruction texts, this is held to be a very important attitude. There's a proverb translated from Tibetan into English that goes, even if we have to suffer, we suffer happily. Because we realize suffering is a temporary issue. Clouds in front of the sun. It will change. So suffering happily means realizing that the suffering is external and impermanent. Our Buddha nature can never suffer. So suffering happily is possible. Even if we cannot avoid suffering, we have a space where we can be happy in our minds in the most difficult situations. The second advantage of knowing Buddha nature is respect. We are able to respect all sentient beings, all human beings, because they all have Buddha nature. We respect the environment and nature as well, because they're also manifestations of Buddha nature through our own interdependent sense perceptions. A tree, a bush, a flower. It's only those things because we relate to it that way, with our human perception, with our ability to see beauty and so forth. So that's also due to our Buddha nature. Otherwise, for another kind of consciousness, or a worm or an ant, they don't perhaps see the beauty, or they can't get joy and bliss from flowers and trees and so forth. They're simply a place to hide in, or to live, or to eat. So the beauty, the nature is due to our human perception, due to the fact also that we are human beings with Buddha nature. Third advantage, intelligence. When we know about Buddha nature, then we begin to know about relative truth. Knowing and understanding relative truth and how to use it is intelligence. And we also begin to know about ultimate truth. Knowing and understanding ultimate truth is wisdom. Wisdom will guide us to make the choices that speed us towards enlightenment. So wisdom is the fourth advantage. Fifth advantage, loving kindness and compassion. We know all sentient beings can improve because they're ultimately perfect, and their efforts to progress. They all have Buddha nature. So we have compassion because we are intensely aware of the suffering all sentient beings must go through while they're still ignorant. We know it. You see, there's this wonderful example given by one of the Indian Pandits, I think Dharmakirti. Sentient beings are like a bucket in a well. Old-fashioned well in different countries, you put the bucket down, drop the water. It bangs against the side of the well as you bring it up. The bucket becomes dented and bruised. Sometimes it comes up, then it goes down. Sometimes up, sometimes down, banging against the side of the well. So Dharmakirti says this is the plight of ordinary beings. Go down into the lower realms and up briefly into the upper realms and up and down, banging against the side of the well, getting bruised and hurt again and again and again. So sad. So he says, how wonderful to develop the compassion, seeing sentient beings as like a bucket in a well. Battered. Sometimes you see it. You see it in people's faces. They've been battered by life. You see it in the anxiety and the fear of the pictures of people in Syria and other conflict situations. You can see it on somebody in the metro. You don't have to go all the way to Syria. You see it in the people getting on the metro at Ames or getting out at Ames, going to the hospital, coming from the hospital. You don't have to go far. You can see it in your uncle or your relatives. Sometimes you see it in the mirror in the morning. When you get up, you say, "Oh wow, I look stressed out today." You know. We don't need to look far. We just need to look at ourselves and our kind sentient being next to us, and so then we can feel loving kindness and compassion, which is the heart of religion, I believe. So then we can say properly, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And our prayer becomes realistic, not only because we can see their suffering, but we know that everyone has Buddha nature, so they can be free of it. You don't mind the clouds that are there, you can enjoy them even to a certain extent, because you know actually there is sunshine behind it. If you don't believe it, then of course you have to get the money to buy an air ticket, and then you go up, and wow, 35,000 feet, wow, down are the clouds. And they look beautiful from up there. The clouds look beautiful from up there. And down there they're creating dengue and chikungunya, all these horrible things. But from above they look beautiful. Okay. Buddha nature is the most practical, helpful and truly essential principle of Vajrayana Buddhism. We say in our Buddhist prayers that we want to liberate all sentient beings, and this is a very ambitious attitude. Can we really liberate all sentient beings? Yes, we can. Can we attain enlightenment? Of course. What makes us think this is possible? Buddha nature. It is our sound basis for carrying on. We are inherently enlightened. We just have to awaken the sleeping Buddha